Hello, can you hear me? All right, here goes nothing. So, another Silent Hill trailer came out, along with, I think, a half hour of gameplay footage. And the internet has completely switched their opinions on Silent Hill 2 Remake. For the most part. Obviously, not everyone, but as someone who's heavily involved in Silent Hill and gets notifications about it constantly, I've noticed a definite switch in how most people feel. And since the trailer came out, a lot of folks have asked me how I feel. And the truth is, I haven't watched either of those videos. Now, I have watched the older ones, and I did make more in-depth videos about them when they came out, but I'm choosing not to this time, mostly because the game is so close to releasing. I'm so excited for it, especially the more we learn about it. It's going to be like something like 20 hours long for your first playthrough. It has all the endings the original did. It's going to be so much fun. And at this point, I'm ready to just, no spoilers, no more trailers. I want to wait and experience it. I'm a little disappointed, honestly, because I feel like a lot of the game has been shown to us, and I wish it hadn't been. Because imagine how amazing it would have been to play the game with very little knowledge and to be pleasantly surprised at how good it was. The way that folks now seem to have decided it is going to be a good game, imagine if you could have felt that naturally as you played through the game. Unfortunately, I think the original fandom was so determined, a good portion of it was so determined to believe this game couldn't be good, that the developers felt they had to show a lot of their hand to prove that they really had been respectful and that they had been really trying to create something beautiful. And I get why they had to do that, and I get why fans were really anxious and nervous. Konami hasn't been perfect in the past. A lot of people are torn on Bloober Team. This is an incredible game that is much harder, I think, to reimagine than a Final Fantasy VII or a Resident Evil 2, simply because of the very realistic, grounded depictions of suicide and terminal illness and things that video games don't always deal with. I guess what I'm saying is, I really wish we as fans could have been a little more cautiously skeptical or patient with the game, so that we wouldn't have had so much of it shown to us before we could decide to give it a chance. We've seen 3 of Angela's major scenes from what the trailers I've watched and clips I've seen people post online. The staircase, the mirror room, meeting her in the graveyard. We've seen the bathroom scene in the beginning. We've seen the jail scene. So many prominent scenes, and we've seen all the characters. We've seen most of the monsters, I think. The mannequin, lying figure, pyramid head, nurses, and I think there's like 10 major monsters if you include the bug. So that's like 4 out of, say, 9. It's not all of them, but it just feels to me like I really wish we could have gone in without as much info and just experienced it and been blown away as we did. But unfortunately, it was the circumstances here that people couldn't trust. They didn't want to be open-minded about it. And again, I get why. I guess my point is just that in future, really just be patient. Just be open-minded. Not because I think you have to believe the game's going to be good or not, but because you shouldn't make your decision about it until the game's actually out. I remember Dead Island and how people loved that trailer so much. It was such a good trailer, and people really got turned on to this game that turned out to be kind of a crapshoot. I think Dead Island 2 might have been better, but as a game, it really didn't live up to the hype that came from its promotional content. And there's lots of games that are examples of that. And I think there's a lot of examples of games that were really good that had bad promotional content. Essentially, you shouldn't make your decision about whether a game is good or bad until it is out. Especially in this world where, now that we have streaming and YouTube, it's so easy to not have to spend any money and find out if a game is good. You don't have to trust a journal writer or a reviewer who sometimes, if it's not a genre they like, they may bounce off it. I remember the original Silent Hill 2 had some reviews that were very funny in retrospect. But being able to actually watch the game yourself, you get to have a real kind of secondhand experience of it and decide if it's good or bad. And so that's my way of coming into games now. I don't make a decision on if a game is good or bad until I've seen it. And then that tells me if I'm going to enjoy playing it or not. Maybe it's only a game I want to watch. Maybe gameplay is not something I would enjoy. So then I do buy it or I don't. And that's what I wish we could have done with Silent Hill 2. If we as fans could have been, this could be cool. This could be great. We'll see what happens. But instead, a very large chunk of people just dug their heels in and said, it can't. I'm not talking about people who were like skeptical or people who were like, remakes aren't for me. I'm not into it. Some people, that's fine. But there were a lot of people, and I have the receipts in my YouTube channel comments. You can just go read those, who just said it will be bad. And you had no idea. I get the sense of frustration with remakes. I do get that. Because it really does stink that there's so many great games out there that can't be played easily in the modern day. And a medium of art lives by its catalog, Books are built upon generations of people's work, which are difficult sometimes, but not impossible to gain access to. As long as you can get a copy of a book, ebook or paper or otherwise, you can read it. The same is not true of video games. You have to have the console, you have to have the controllers, the memory cards maybe, a computer that can manage the game. To play the entirety of the Silent Hill series, you would actually have to have a Game Boy Advance, a PlayStation 1 or 2, and a PS3 or an Xbox 360, a PS4 with PT already downloaded on it, PS5 for Silent Hill Short Message and Silent Hill 2, or a very good PC that can emulate a lot of these things, and safe copies of the game, confidence to know how to do that kind of stuff, which not everybody is computer literate or feels confident in how to do that. So it becomes so hard to play these great, incredibly influential games like Silent Hill 2 that have completely changed all of horror gaming forever. And I get that people are frustrated that that's the truth, and then we're going to have a remake, but there's no real copy of Silent Hill 2 to come out. Well, we've seen what happened when they tried to do that on the PS3, so I'm guessing they don't have it anymore. Why they can't just buy a secondhand copy, I don't know how all that works, but because so many games are not available, remakes become so important for keeping the medium and its classics alive. Consider something like Dracula, which is so important in to this day, more than 100 years after he first appeared on the scene, is still really relevant in culture. And it's not because everybody's reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. Some of us are, but not everyone. There's so many movie adaptations. From the early decades of the book, there were stage adaptations, there were film knockoffs, there have been books inspired by it, there have been sequels written by the Bram family. There's, now that I think he's in public domain, he's everywhere. And that has kept him alive as a cultural influence. And while not everyone reads the original book, his existence is a reminder of that book that has led many like myself to read it and really, really love it. And people who do that, who go back and seek out original classics, they're the kind of people who will then work on similar work, make adaptations, make things like the TV shows that are actually good adaptations. It's that kind of thing that kind of brings lifeblood back to classics. And video games need that. Silent Hill 2 needs that. I don't think people realize how different Silent Hill's fan base is going to be when this game comes out. Silent Hill Message gave a little shot in the arm, but that's kind of a short game. It's not a classic. It's a little different. Fatal Frame is a pretty small little fan base, but it got a bump a couple years ago probably because Markiplier played Fatal Frame 2. Whenever I search Fatal Frame on YouTube or I put it in the tags of a video, Markiplier's name pops up as associated with Fatal Frame because he played one game 5 years ago. It's not even the majority of what he does, the way that Silent Hill is the majority of my channel. So now imagine, say, Jacksepticeye, who is a self-professed huge fan of Silent Hill 2, talks about it in a lot of his horror games, playthroughs. He loves the game. Imagine the remake comes out and he streams it. You know, imagine these giants of YouTube with huge audiences, many of whom are young, being introduced to Silent Hill for the first time. You may not know this, but if you're a majority, like a huge YouTuber on YouTube, a lot of your audience is kids. My audience is primarily 30 to 40-year-olds, but I'm a very small YouTuber. And most adults have lives and are busy in a way that children are not. And Silent Hill is not a fan base that has been permeated with children the way that your Five Nights at Freddy's has, or other modern horror that have really gotten a boost from the fact that they are considered relevant in large part because the youth enjoys them. This is going to be the first time that the youth has been introduced to Silent Hill since 2012. It's going to be really different. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be new blood, new interest in Silent Hill, specifically in Silent Hill 2, one of the most influential games in horror of all time. I think it's going to be so much fun. I was convinced of this even before I was sure the game looked good. I just knew putting this game out there and making it available to people again, even if it's just through live streaming, it's gonna be so much fun to have new people interested in Silent Hill again. For it not just to be us 30, 40-year-olds, you know, around the fire like, I remember back in the day. I remember when people liked Silent Hill and it was new and fresh. It's gonna be so cool to have it be culturally impactful again, and not just a memory, but something living. And it could lead to new Silent Hill games, more remakes, ports, please God. If you have the game somewhere, make them available. I'm excited. And I'm not going to watch all the videos and stuff that have just come out, solely because I do want to see a surprise when I go in there. And I'm really glad that people seem to have turned around and come around to the idea that this game could be really cool. I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited. I have been doing YouTube since 2011 on this channel. I had a first channel, and that started in 2006. So I've been around a minute. That was a Kingdom Hearts AMV channel, so we don't need to worry about that. But I've been doing this since Silent Hill Downpour was the new game. And I remember when Silent Hill was still alive and new games were coming out and people were talking about it. And everybody, I was 18? So I was kind of the youth. And the youth loved Silent Hill. Like, people who were fans of horror were playing it all the time. And it's really incredible to now be on the other side of what feels like this really long drought with all this drama that's happened with PT and things. And, you know, it's really incredible to feel like we're coming into a new upswing of Silent Hill. And horror in general has been doing really amazing lately. And it feels great to be there. And I'm really excited for it. And I do want to also say that besides Silent Hill, there's other good horror coming out. Hollow Body, which is like a Silent Hill, I think, sci-fi. It looks amazing, and I think it comes out in the next month or two. Tormented Souls 2 also had an announcement on the same day as Silent Hill 2, unfortunately. So that game is getting a sequel. I've heard that's a really cool Silent Hill-esque game, which I do already own, so we're going to play that at some point. And Slitterhead comes out the month after Silent Hill 2, which is Toyama Keiichiro's big new project that I'm so excited for. I'm so happy he's making his own games with his own studio, and I hope it's really successful. I don't know that that one's pure horror, really. It sounds more like action horror, but I think it's going to be really cool, too. So that's my thoughts on Silent Hill 2 Remake, and that's probably the last video I'll make about it until the game's out, because, like I said, I don't want to watch any more trailers or anything. I kind of want to go in blind, so I'm gonna wait and patiently see and be excited for what's to come. And I hope that everyone continues to be excited and gets, enjoys the final product and it all turns out really great. I'm a little worried about it being PS5 only, but hopefully, Sony gave them that good money to kind of buffer with the fact that I don't know how many people own PS5s. I know a lot of my friends don't. It may be, I worry about sales numbers with it being an exclusive, but hopefully Sony balances that out, and then it'll be on PC. It'll be on PC, and then everybody will be able to play it, so that'll be cool. Those are my thoughts. I have no more thoughts. Thoughts empty. Goodbye.